welcome to The Right Kind of Book Talk. I'm your host, Stacey Wright. So this is episode 2. Reading is sexy. Let's end the stigma. As readers, we have all heard something unsavory from someone about our reading habits. I'm not entirely sure why people think they deserve an opinion on what other people do, but we're going to take a look at the misconceptions surrounding readers and how other readers cope with the level of hate that they tend to get from non-readers. But first, let's do the top 10 Goodreads books of the week. What books, according to Goodreads, is everybody reading? I love this. I get a lot of my books from here. So, first things first, The Boyfriend by Frida McFadden. I actually just finished the audio of this one. Top notch. The Pumpkin Spice Cafe. That is Dream Harbor Book 1 by Laurie Gilmore. The Housemaid, Book 1 of the Housemaid series by Frida McFadden. Fourth Wing by Rebecca Yarros. A Court of Thorns and Roses by Sarah J. Maas. I Am Flame by Rebecca Yarros. Seeing a theme here. A Court of Mist and Fury by Sarah J. Maas. The Housemaid's Secret by Frida McFadden. Oh, what's going on here? A Court of Wings and Ruin by Sarah Maas. The Striker by Anna Young. I actually haven't read the last one. That's the only one I haven't read. All the rest of them I have. So that's really interesting. So how many of those have you read? Are you a fan of Fourth Wing or Court of Thorns and Roses? Seems to be one of the top 2 fandoms of the day right now, and it has been for quite some time. But I will be doing an episode on fandom, so you can watch out for that. Today is also book release day. Yay, book release day. What can you expect to find in your bookstores today? So you'll be able to find Pictures of You by Emma Gray. That one's on my to be read. The Sunflower House by Adriana Allegri. Just finished that one. It was brilliant. I had an art copy of that. Well worth the read if you're a historical fiction fan. I would grab it. Grab it with both hands. To Die For by David Bordassi. Where the Library Hides by Isabella Ibanez. Problem with me is I'm not very good at these names. Lazarus Man by Richard Price. Darkly by Marissa Pessel. The Glass Girl by Kathleen Glasgow. This one also is on my TBR. It actually looks really, really good. So if you're going to pick any book up, definitely that one should be a contender too. I Am the Dark That Answers When You Call, Jameson Shea. Dead Girls Don't Dream by Nico Capri. A Wild and Maroon Song by Ashley Shuttleworth. Again, this one was on my TBR as well. A little behind. Just a tad behind. But I also want to give a special mention to A Study of Drowning by Ava Reed. Okay, if you haven't seen this book, they have sprayed the edges like bookshelves. It's beautiful. Like, when did edges of books get so fancy? Okay, I'm not gonna lie. I may have ordered a copy, even though I'm on a book buying ban, and it was worth every penny. Worth every penny. So let's dig into this topic. I took to Facebook and Bookstagram to find out if anyone had ever come across people saying something negative about their reading pleasures. You didn't disappoint. Something I did notice was a lot of you never heard a negative word about your reading choices or book buying habits, and I really loved that for you. Some of the misconceptions I'll be dispelling today. These are the top 10 answers I got from readers. One of the things I'm really enjoying about all the research I'm doing for these episodes is the new level of connection I'm finding with other readers. As a book influencer, you get to know other influencers, obviously, but it seems more surface getting to know somebody. I know them on a more superficial level. I know who you'll influence for, what books they are sent, and sometimes if they have pets. Some of them I only know by their @handle and not their real names. And some I only know because of how they treat people on Bookstagram. And people like to bleep. One thing I always notice about the community, though, is that for the most part, it is beautiful and kind. And there is a lot of toxicity in the community as well, but I do tend to steer clear of that. You can keep your torches and your pitchforks, and I'll just be over here reading. When you start asking the real questions, you get to see something more than just the beautiful photos, the PR boxes, and the reviews. You get to see the raw, the vulnerable, the real. You get to see the reader and not just the book influencer. Now, I do prefer Facebook for asking questions and polls. Readers tend to be more receptive over there. But I do pose my questions in multiple places because I do like to hear what other people have to say. And reading wasn't even an option for most people until the 20th century. Upper class women were the only ones who were taught to read before that. It was seen as a complete waste of time for a woman to learn how to read. What was the point in somebody who was taking care of their husband being able to read? Which was pretty tragic, really, but that's how it was. So, really, for women nowadays, reading is a real gift. Something that for generations beforehand, it wasn't even something they had. My experience comes from number one. Before I met my husband and we had babies, I was trying to find my soulmate. I went on dates. It was abundantly clear on my Bratin profile that I was a reader. Well, I set up this date with a very cute, very sweet firefighter. His name was Rick. Things were going fine. Then he asked me what I did with my spare time. I said I read a lot. He was like, cool, what do you read? I went into the basic deets of my favorite books. He was nodding, and then he said, women who have books on display in their homes are a walking red flag. He was still smiling, but the silence was deafening. After about 30 seconds of me just staring at him like it was a freaking cockroach, he coughed and started to look around. Put a 20 on my purse, dropped it on the table and left. And I didn't say a word. He didn't stop me. And that was that. This was something I shared with my groups. Everyone's of the opinion that I was right to walk away. But should I have said something before I left? How does having books in your home be a red flag? People have books for the same reason people collect DVDs, music, creepy dolls, elephant figurines. It's something they enjoy having around. They're in their happy places. I keep my books. I always dreamed of having a home library. I feel like they are great conversation starters when you have someone over and you see a book and they love it too. I like to reread my favorite books. So having them right where I need them is relaxing to me. Makes me feel good. Someone else mentioned, when I'm stressed, I like to sit in my library and I can just feel my tension release. I can't explain it. I just feel more relaxed. Even if it's a placebo, it has a very real impact on my mental health to have lots of books where I can physically see them. I get that. I understand that. I feel the exact same way. Maybe men know women who read can't easily be fooled. We've seen all the red flags in books. What do you think? Ideally, keep fewer than 30 books. No one has ever needed that kind of negativity. This literally had me laughing so hard when I saw it on that meme going around with that woman. I literally have that many sitting on my nightstand. Actually, there's probably more than that. So people who keep their books and display them proudly want people to know they read. They want the connection with other readers who love the same books. Books help with their mental health. These are definitely not reasons to believe this type of reader is a red flag. I don't get it. Sometimes people collect special editions because they love the book and they love the author and they want to support that author. Sometimes they collect books with author signatures. How is this different from men who collect sports memorabilia or signed hockey cards? Now, somebody posted this in one of the chats and I laughed so hard because dragons hoard their goods and so do I. Hashtag book dragon. Yes, you all day long. Yes, you won the internet. Someone even said, I read a book, then I keep it. I read it years again later, and it hits me in a new way because later I'm a different person. And man, that really resonated with me so hard. The books hold the memories of the moments in time where your heart was soaring. That's perfection. Perfection. Books bring joy. Books bring peace. Books bring unity. Now, here's a sidebar for you, okay? Some people truly believe that books are used as props to ensnare them. This is a weird one for me. How does having books trap a man? Are they like genies? Can they physically not move once they catch sight of a half-naked man on a book cover? I don't even know. It's crazy to me. We don't buy books to make you think we have read them. This is a costly thing to do. Like, seriously, I don't think you know how much books cost when flashing a little bit of cleavage is free. The next misconception is women who are out reading alone are there for attention. If a woman is sitting alone in a park or bar, restaurant, coffee shop, that we must be sitting now with a book so men will approach us. Wrong. We go to these places for peace and quiet. As a mother of six, I can't get out to read in peace anymore. But when my older two kids were a lot younger, I used to walk to the park with a sandwich and read for half an hour just sitting under a tree while they were at school. It was bliss. I'm not sure what kind of woman decides, oh, how can I get attention today? I know, I'll dress like a nun and bring a book. This is not how it is. We read to leave this world, not to bring people to us. I was curious, so I did a poll on how many readers were introverts, ambiverts, or extroverts. Based just on my poll, there was a lot of people that joined in. 88% were introverted, 11 were ambiverts, and the last 1% were extroverts. I'm an extrovert. If I wanted attention, I would kick the door open and declare it. Everyone else just wants to be left alone to read. Other misconceptions are that we're stuck up, snooty, goody two-shoes. I know a lot of readers. I have over 15,000 followers on Instagram, and one thing I can tell you, I've never met a reader who are full of themselves or stuck up. Readers tend to be down to earth. How can we not be? We're all about books. Yes, you might find a book snob every now and again. Emily in Paris, for example, have you ever seen that show? But those people are super rare. Like, don't tarnish all people with the same brush. What kind of personality traits do most readers have? Have empathy, emotional intelligence, patience. Of course we have patience. Curiosity, imaginative, we're thinkers, we're attentive. These aren't bad things in a partner or a friend. Okay, so this next one is a doozy. There are literally people out there that believe romance is not a real genre. Are you freaking kidding me? Not a real genre. Okay, let's begin, shall we? The origins of the romance novel started around the late 18th, early 19th centuries. Samuel Richardson Pamela, or Virtual Rewarded, was one of the first released in 1740. Romance has been a genre for centuries. One of the biggest reasons romance is vilified is because the world belittled and berated women for ever wanting or hoping that they had a chance of living the same lives as their favorite fictional characters. Because the books were just that, fiction. Anyone who thought of them as real life possibilities were dreamers, considered delusional. They even put women in asylums for their reading habits. It was definitely a patriarchal opinion because romance books gave women hope that men didn't want them to have. The unfortunate thing is that even still today, romance is seen as fluff and not really considered as a real genre. Rebecca is considered a romance within the Gothic genre, and even 90 years later, it still draws on for inspiration for new writers. Some of the best authors in the world write romance. You may think romance isn't a real genre, but considering the romance books are a $1.4 billion industry, their bank balances couldn't care less about your archaic views. Romance books often have beautifully complex stories. They cover a wide range of tropes, and romance readers can be highly critical of their own genres. They love the book so much they have to be a cut above the rest. And romance is not just one genre, it is a multitude of subgenres now too. You'll find things like contemporary romance, romantasy, which is romance and fantasy rolled into one, young adult romance, erotic romance, historical romance, Regency romance. This one's huge right now. LGBTQ plus romance, romantic comedy, religious romance, paranormal romance, gothic romance, romantic suspense, time travel romance, military romance, even Western romance. They have the cross-culture romance, billionaire romance. This one I don't understand. Clean romance, dark romance. This one is huge. Monster romance. Again, now we're getting into the weird stuff. vampire and shifter romance, alien romance. You were probably at this point going, she's lying. Okay, Google it. I'm not lying. Okay, these are all real subgenres. Sports romance. This one's huge right now too, especially hockey romance and mafia romance. And the list goes on and on and on and on. If you can't find something to read within all of those subgenres, there must be something seriously wrong with you. Because it casts such a wide net with tons of tropes. It's not just bored housewives who read romance because they're sick of their lives. It's single women, single mums, happily married women, career-minded women, stay-at-home mamas, young teens, new adults, golden girls, and everyone in between. I even heard that there are men who will read romance. Like, the genre has so much more than people that don't read it give it credit for. And there are some absolutely wonderful romance authors out there. Don't hate me for this one, but I love Nicholas Sparks. I think what he writes is phenomenal, and he doesn't write a lot of stuff with happily ever afters, and sometimes I need that. I like Emily Henry, Sarah Hawley, Lana Ferguson, just finished The Nanny, great book. Ali Hazelwood, Christina Lauren, they collaborate, brilliant. Rebecca Yarros, yeah, she writes more than fantasy, she writes romance too. I won't go on anymore about romance, it's just one of the many genres that I love. I read them all, and I do mean them all genres. It's a delicate balance that comes with romance, so don't vilify a genre if you've never read some of the brilliant books within it. This next misconception stopped me in my tracks. Someone I knew from my teenage years, also an avid reader, posted that women authors only write books aimed at women. Say what now? Yeah, legit. That men don't read women authors because they only write books for women. This might be the stupidest thing I ever heard in my life. As a woman, I find I read a fairly even split of male to female authors. Okay, maybe it's more like 60-40 recently, but I've been on a bit of a historical fiction bender. I do tend to judge books on their covers. I don't read the synopsis half the time, and I sure as sheet don't judge the gender of the author. Why would I? My dude, you're missing out on some world-class writing because you're judging women authors. Why? I actually was really disappointed with some readers because they felt a man who felt this way should be shunned. No, 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 no. The whole point is to help them see they are wrong and show them what they're missing out on. What kind of a person are you if you take this narrow viewpoint and want to shun men over something that they maybe didn't know? Maybe they truly believed that. Some authors to recommend when someone tells you women only write for other women. Now, these came from Facebook, and I actually agree with a lot of them. So, Robin Hobb, brilliant, brilliant writer. Jennifer Robinson, Carol Berg, Octavia E. Butler, Margaret Atwood. She is one of my personal favorites. Alias Grace might be one of the best books ever written. Storm Constantine, Christina Henry, Jesmyn Ward, Frances Knight, Naomi Novak. Some of these authors have written some of the best books. They have written world-class, award-winning novels. I did find this interesting fact today, though. I actually didn't know this. Apparently, the most requested and read books in men's prisons are written by Danielle Steele. My mind was blown. My mind was blown. I had no idea. But it's true. It's true. I checked. I wish I knew why. I wish I knew why. I had a reader admit that they don't read any books written by men. So this kind of does go both ways, that women readers will also avoid male authors. Sometimes we're just set in our ways, but as readers, we should always be willing to expand our reading parameters. From one of my books groups, this reader had this to say. Men want to read books about a sexy secretary or mistress from a men's point of view, while women authors write it from the woman's point of view, or both points of view. Men want a man's perspective of a romance, while women want both. So him stating female authors write books for women isn't technically wrong. It's just how it worked out, because men don't want to read about a female lead, let alone watch one, because they can't connect with it. I love this. I think she's right. I think she nailed that. So why not push yourself to read a book outside of your comfort? You never know what you might find. You may well find a book that blows your whole world apart. Gender norms are antiquated, and there are no books for women. But did you know that they have this whole genre called women's fiction? So what is women's fiction? Okay, so it's basically an umbrella term for any book centered around a woman's life. So the protagonist is a woman. Do we think this might be one of the issues with men thinking women protagonists are only for women? Like, how sexist is that? This isn't done in literary fiction. So why do this at all? The misconception is that books centered on women can't be serious enough for them. I can see what they're trying to do by marketing books directly to women. 88% of avid readers are women. So why are they still marketing books only geared towards women when they're already the target audience? It really doesn't make sense to me that this is even a thing. How many women refuse to read books that hit this genre? Why would you alienate any reader by creating a genre that is automatically excluding somebody? I literally have no words for that. No words. It's very depressing as a woman to know that this is how that is. The next misconception is that reading fiction means you're not learning anything. Hold my beer. Anyone who knows me knows that I love reading books based on real events. A Pair of Wings is a fictional story of Bessie Coleman. She was the first Black woman to get her pilot's license, and she had to go to France to do it. I had no idea the scope of her life until I read this book, and I ended up tumbling down this really beautiful rabbit hole. Readers are naturally curious creatures, and we tend to search when we come across something in a book we didn't know before. How is that not learning? It's actually better than reading nonfiction, because the author is giving you information based on what they are giving you. No more, no less. So you're getting a narrow-minded view. When you get a nugget of information from a fiction book, you have the world of information at your fingertips. And we don't just stop at one place to do our research. How is this not learning? Research in psychology suggested that reading fiction can improve an individual's social cognitive abilities. Fiction readers are better at having an open mind. That's the epitome of learning. I learn something new daily from my books. Someone who reads only books on, let's say, World War II. Fascinating topic for sure. But that is one very small historical moment in time. How is this learning when you aren't expanding your knowledge power to include all the wars the world's ever seen? The Cousins' War, the War of the Roses, for example. That war spanned 150 years. I think the misconception here is that you think real life events are more important than the real events in fiction that we get more out of than just one topic. I would prefer my learning over that, and I know for a fact fiction readers agree with me. This misconception is that only ugly and old women read books because they can't get a man. Firstly, have you seen some of those book talk ladies? They are some of the most beautiful women I have ever seen. So some of the accounts are Liza Book Regs, Books with Grace, Meiji, Yana Books, L'Express Books, and the list goes on and on and on. You clearly don't go on Book Talk. I even have a friend, her name's JC. She's also a beautiful reader. Like, you people are missing it. These readers all look like real life models. all under the age of 30. Only the ugly read? You have no clue. So continue to sit on your throne of lies because reading is sexy as, and you need to take the blinders off. Seriously, type in book talk, have a look at those girls. Not only are readers beautiful on the outside, but they're just as beautiful on the inside. I've met so many wonderful people, so many. And you guys are also missing out on the dark romance readers. Those girls like their books full of smut and red flags, and the kinks even make me blush. They are open and curious women, and conversations about sex are never off the table. Sexy librarians, come on! Fairly certain there's a genre of men who love those. I honestly don't even know why this is a thing. I actually wonder if this is more to do with readers who tend to be more introverted and are likely viewed as less attractive because they aren't loud, they're not out there. Confidence rather than looks here. But, I think that's a topic for another day. So let's wrap this up with some of the things that non-readers have had to say that they've had other people say to them that weren't readers. Save a tree, watch TV. Always told as a joke, but I've never found it the least bit amusing. Save a brain cell, crack a book. That one's ridiculous. My ex-husband used to say I was wasting time reading fiction. The only worthwhile reading was nonfiction. I think we already covered that. We already dispelled that one. Why do you read when you could just watch TV? Reading is boring. It's just words. Why do you still have paper books? You know there's ebooks, right? Wow. Wow. Why not just watch TV? Wow. Or scroll your phone. What's the difference? One time I told a co-worker I love to read, and she said, I can't think of a worse way to spend your time. I was extremely taken aback and just said, well, it's better than going to jail, I guess. A great comeback. It is better than going to jail. This person says, I'm always asking people weird questions and get hit with, you read too much. And I live in a fantasy world. Not really, I just don't like mundane conversation. Me either. I hate mundane conversation. And most people don't know how to hold one. Oh, I like you. I just feel bad for the naysayers. It generally means they don't hear the voices in their head as they're reading and that they lack the imagination to enjoy reading. To them, it's just words on a page. Yeah, maybe, but there are some readers that don't hear voices in their heads either, so I don't know. I don't know about that one. My ex told me reading books is a waste of time and I should watch TV instead. He also told me I only read books to show off and burn several of my books. That's horrible. No one should be burning your stuff. I'm glad he's your ex. Other people have told me to grow up and read adult books. I read a lot of fantasy, which is definitely not all childish. I wouldn't put fantasy as being a kid's book. Go on with your fantasy, girl. I mentioned that I read approximately 60 books this year, and a few minutes later said, it's all audiobooks. And my co-worker said, oh, so you've had 60 books read to you, huh? Audiobooks is reading. It's actually the standard definition of reading is being read to. I was told in group therapy once that I had relied on books as a way to escape. I thought, well, no. I was a kid and I lived in a damn scary world, and yes, books were my escape. They were why I was able to survive till I was an adult and mature enough to tackle that scary world. I shut that therapist down real fast. Good for you. I get the condescending, I wish I had time to read, insinuating I have all this free time. I'm a mother of 4 with a full-time job who homesteads. Oh, girl, homesteads. If I can make enough time, then anyone can. Not saying I get enough sleep or anything. Yeah, I bet you don't. Busy. Let me be that big red flag, if you will. A well-read woman is a bad thing. I have read over 250 books in a single year as one of my hinge prompts under the 2 truths and a lie. And almost every man goes, it's impossible to read that many. There's no way that's true. I even got a, how do you even have room for that many books? My guys, my story graph proves that it is possible, and my bookshelves are only half full with 400-ish books. Let's be a little bit more clever about it. I like you. I like you a lot. I read so much that I have no common sense. Who said that to you? Who said that? This person said, I've heard it all. Why read? It doesn't pay the bills. I need to just watch a Netflix. No, but it keeps me sane and not stab you in the eye with a fork and end up in prison. Okay. It's also not rude to just close the book when you're done for now. It's rude to duck people's mouths when they won't shut up, though. People who don't read seem to think it's a boring hobby or a waste of time. Yeah. I honestly couldn't care less about their opinion because at the end of the day, reading makes me happy. Good. Good for you. You're a little intense, but good for you. Oh Lord, I've heard it all. One of my favorites, though, was when an ex boyfriend said that I was wasting my time reading fiction because it doesn't teach you anything. I proceeded to make a PowerPoint presentation about how fiction teaches about interpersonal and intrapersonal relationships, body language, subtext, compassion, etc. And the ending slide had a confetti animation that said, but since you hate fiction so much, here's a little non-fiction for you. You're single. There were other issues in the relationship, but that was just the final straw for me. Wow. That was some dedication for getting rid of somebody. That was dedicated. You can't learn by just reading. To this day, that one blows my mind. Yeah, me too. There's no way you can read that fast. Heard this about a million times. Had a professor actually test my reading speed because he thought I was being intentionally rude. I'm a fast reader too. That really irritates me when people say I can't read that fast. I can, and I do. You use big words to sound smart and confuse people. The word in the question here was subsequent, which I wouldn't even consider a big word. Wow. If that's a big word to that person, wow. All right then. My ex boyfriend once told me I should put my book down and live more because I'm missing out. I've told him I've lived 1,000 lives and visited many places through my books and that I will continue to do so. Thank you very much. Besides, books are in my budget while travel is not. Right? You can go anywhere for around about $30. I don't even think that's a tank of gas anymore. I've been told that I'm weird, nerdy, uneducated. I believe that's the exact opposite of educated, but okay. Stuck up goody two shoes. Yeah, I bet. I've been called a nerd, but I embrace it. I love books, writing them, reading them, and yes, smelling them. If a guy thinks books are the red flag, he'd be sorely mistaken. Smutty books aren't ladylike. Well, in all fairness, they really aren't. But who cares? I didn't grow up to become a lady. When I was in college, I had very little time to read books for pleasure, so I was really annoyed when people used to use it as an opening to try and hit on me. One guy actually said, why don't you put that book down and talk with me? I bet I'm more entertaining. And my favorite, being called a liar for what I read. I like history and I like the classics, so I read way above my age. Great. I would read college level literature in elementary school and nobody believed me. I would hear things like, yeah, right, you really shouldn't make up stories. Or if you want people to think you've read those kinds of books, you should actually know about the story. And there's no way you understood that book. Even my teachers didn't believe me sometimes. Oh, that's horrible. Supposed to be the one people that do. I was definitely accused of cheating and plagiarism on book reports and essays because there's no way you read that book that fast. Yes, I did. It was also my third time reading Pride and Prejudice, and it's one of my favorites. So, yeah, I already had it down, but whatever. Yeah, whatever. I hate that. I hate that. I hate when people assume that. Get out of here. I love when people say stuff like, oh, I'm too busy to read. Like, we don't make the time to read. I don't scroll on social media much. And when my kids are playing contently, I pull out my book to read. I read before bed as well. I don't think anyone is ever too busy to read. They just don't prioritize it because they don't need it like some of us do. That's what I think as well. Like, if you can sit there and watch Netflix and chill for 5 hours before bed, you got time for a book. I've heard that people who read dark romance are in abusive relationships and too stupid to get out of them. And people who read taboo romance are sick in the head and need to be lobotomized. Whoa. All right, that's brutal. Granted, that last one came from Seven Rue during her sorority break, rant posting, and she wrote taboo romances. Wow, I didn't hear about that. Wow, I should throw that one in Google and catch up. Apparently I missed that. I got told I must think I'm better than everyone else, how high and mighty I am. This after I had a conversation as a child with an adult and my vocabulary surpassed theirs. They thought I was showing off. Wow. Just because you're smarter than a grown up does not mean you're showing off. I disagreed with a man who was talking me up, flirting, etc. And his immediate response was a disgusted look, and I quote, "You're one of those girls who read, aren't you?" I'm going to get that on a t-shirt. I'm one of those girls who reads. Amazing. So this next person said that I must not like people very much. Well, I don't, but that's nothing to do with my reading habits. All right, then. I like that. I like that. You're honest. When I was moving out of my parents' house, my mum asked me where I was going to hide my books. I said my bookcases were going in my living room. She said, but people will be able to see them. Yes, I think that was the point. Oh, that's hilarious. I've read that I am not a real reader because I don't read the extremely intellectual stuff. Okay, what does that even mean? What really intellectual stuff? Once during a job interview, the employer said that we are what we read. Okay, fine. That must make me everything because I read them all. A few years ago, I was teaching a-holes theory in my college level critical thinking class. I was making some notes in my class in a Starbucks, and a woman marched across the store to tell me I shouldn't read pornography in public. Wow. Okay, yeah, wow. My grandmother calls the books I read trash because that's what they are. I read dark romance, fantasy, mystery, historical romance, etc. Just because what I read is too much for her to handle doesn't make it trash. Other than that, I get people telling me to write instead of reading, most because I have an active imagination. Well, maybe you should be writing too. Maybe give it a shot. Or some poetry, maybe. Short story. I always wondered how good a reader would be at writing. Not something I've ever thought about doing, but I bet we'd be pretty decent. I feel like people overestimate readers. I'm hesitant to say I'm a reader and that I read quite often because people think that I'm smart or something. And then they want to talk a lot about things. And I'm just three raccoons in a trench coat, really. But honestly, I don't think I'm dumb, but I'm not a good talker. So I guess the antisocial part is true for me. But it's not for reading. It's just that I'm autistic and I say things that I'm not thinking correctly in my head. Sometimes my words get mixed up and I didn't even know what to say when I mean something else. Also, I'm fighting the urge really hard to correct the use of your antisocial in the situation, but I know what you mean, so I will not say it. I like the thing about the raccoons in a trench coat. That might have won the internet today for me. So there you have it. Readers are people just like everyone else. Do you feel like I accurately described you? Did I miss something? If I did, let me know. You can always store it in the comments wherever you are. I think readers and non-readers have to find common ground and give each other the room to be themselves. Reading is just as valid as any recreational activity, as people who Netflix and chill or doom scroll on TikTok, whatever it is you're doing. How is scrolling your phone in public more acceptable than reading today? One of these things makes you normal and the other antisocial. Why? Did you know that phone scrollers are more likely to get into a car accident? Save a car, read a book. There you go. I just saved your car. I think we can all agree that readers are seen by non-readers as antisocial, ugly, and not interested in learning, which is completely untrue. And hopefully, all your readers out there will share this episode and we can educate the ignorant and show them the beautiful, compassionate people that we truly are. Well, not me, because I'm kind of a butthole, but the rest of you deserve to be seen for who you are and not what society has mistaken you for. I truly believe that. I truly believe that. And I'm Stacey Wright, and this is the right kind of book talk. I really hope that you've enjoyed this episode, and I hope you have the bookish day you deserve. Don't forget to follow me on TikTok, YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and X. You can find all my links in the linky places. And you can find my podcast anywhere podcasts air. And I will see you on the other side of the page. Take care.